This is the story of the elementary school student dismemberment case. On November 7, 2012, in Bucheon, Gyeonggi Province, South Korea, a 7-year-old boy, a first-grade elementary school student, was killed inside his home. The perpetrators were not strangers. They were his own parents, a father later identified as 34-year-old Choi Kyung-won and his wife Han. The boy's body would remain hidden for years, only to be discovered in January 2016, when authorities followed up on his unexplained absence from school. What emerged shocked the entire nation. The psychology of family life, especially when hidden behind walls, can be impossible for outsiders to read. Sometimes households present a face of stability while tensions build unseen. Stress, whether from money, relationships, or isolation, can corrode a home from within. The rupture between what the world saw, a quiet family in a quiet city, and what was happening behind closed doors was vast. In Gyeonggi Province, that rupture surfaced in the autumn of 2012. Parents are meant to shield, to nurture, to stand as the first and last line of protection for a child. It begins in Bucheon, a city that often disappears into the shadow of its larger neighbors, Seoul and Incheon. A commuter hub where neon signs glow above fried chicken shops and karaoke bars, life here has the rhythm of the ordinary. Families hurry children to school, buses carry office workers to Seoul, and evenings are spent in markets or behind apartment doors. Inside one of those apartments lived a family that blended into this rhythm without drawing attention. Neighbors noticed nothing unusual, nothing to hint at what was happening behind their door. The father, Choi Kyung-won, and his wife Han kept their lives contained within the walls of their home. According to some reports, both had difficult childhoods. Choi was raised by a single mother and forced into adult responsibilities early. Later, in 2005, he served time for fraud after running an online storefront that sold dangerous items such as homemade bombs, cyanide, and ecstasy, defrauding individuals out of approximately 4.3 million Korean won. That incarceration left Han raising their infant son on her own for a time. Some sources have argued that these fractured beginnings shaped the household they later built and ultimately destroyed. A few years later, the couple had a second child, a daughter. Reports note that she was treated with far more affection than her brother. She shared the same small apartment, the same parents, the same walls. By 2012, their son was 7 years old and entering the first grade of elementary school. He was just beginning his journey through childhood, yet troubling signs had already appeared. Teachers raised concerns early that year. One report described a disturbing classroom incident in March when the boy allegedly attacked a classmate with a pencil. Some sources suggested he may have shown signs of ADHD, and by the end of April, his parents had withdrawn him from school, telling administrators he would instead be homeschooled. Behind the door, his world narrowed to a room, to hunger, and to pain. By early November 2012, the line between discipline and cruelty was long past. According to court records, his death came on November 7, 2012. That night after drinking, his father beat him for more than 2 hours, punching and kicking the boy's face while he lay face down. After the assault, the child, barely conscious, was left seated in the chair at the household computer desk, where he remained in agony through the night. Choi, intoxicated, fell asleep in the same room. When he woke the next morning, his son was dead. Later, autopsy results revealed the boy had suffered multiple skull fractures and fatal brain hemorrhaging from the beating. His already fragile body, weighing only around 16 kilograms due to chronic malnutrition, had no strength left to survive the assault. Later that day, November 8th, Choi sent his wife away with their daughter to her parents' home. When Han returned alone the following day, she helped him cover up the crime. On the evening of November 9th, the parents began what prosecutors would later call a calculated erasure. They made 3 trips to a nearby big-box supermarket, purchasing the tools they would use to cut apart their child's body. They even ordered and ate chicken in the apartment while their son's corpse lay nearby. To mask the smell of decomposition, they boiled cheonggukjang, fermented soybean stew, letting its pungent odor spread through the rooms like camouflage. Parts of the boy's remains were sealed and kept frozen in their refrigerator. Others were discarded in a public restroom toilet and a food waste bin near the building. Some remains, including the face, were placed inside a pillowcase and stored in the freezer. His eyelids, which would not close, were taped shut by his father. When the family later moved to another apartment, Choi carried the frozen remains with him, reassuring Han that movers would think they were soup bones. The deception stretched over 3 winters. The court confirmed the details with precision: the starvation, the refusal to seek medical care, the freezing, the disposal. The record is clinical, unforgettable, and silent on the why. It wasn't until January 2016, when a nationwide program tracking long-term student absences flagged the boy's case, that the silence finally broke. According to some sources, this initiative had begun the previous year. South Korea deployed social workers and education officers across the country to investigate children who had vanished from school. When one of those officials checked on this boy's case, they found he had not attended class in years. That discovery brought police to the family's door. By early afternoon, officers had traced the family to a villa in Incheon's Gyeogyang district. Inside, investigators uncovered the boy's remains, dismembered and stuffed into 2 sports bags. The body showed signs of deliberate concealment, some parts frozen, others discarded. Police later noted that the child's face bore an agonized expression, his unclosed eyes taped over by his father. The father, Choi Kyung-won, then 34 years old, and his wife, Han, were taken into custody. Within days, police secured warrants. Choi faced charges of fatal assault and dismemberment, while Han was charged under the Child Welfare Act. The investigation soon revealed disturbing details. Parts of the child's face that could have been used for identification were kept in the freezer, a sign of Choi's meticulous effort to prevent discovery. On January 19, 2016, autopsy results confirmed multiple blunt force injuries to the child's skull, findings that contradicted Choi's early claim that his son had simply fallen in the bathroom. The following day, January 20th, the story shifted. Both parents confessed. Choi admitted that the fatal blows came after a prolonged beating. Han admitted that she had helped cover up the crime, disposing of body parts. During police questioning, Choi said, "I also suffered severe corporal punishment from my biological mother since elementary school. There were times I was injured, but I never went to the hospital. I never thought my son would die." Psychological profiling was conducted to assess the couple's mental state. Evaluators concluded that Choi did not display traits consistent with psychopathy. Reports also noted that Han had grown up amid indifference and neglect in her own family. According to police profilers, Choi showed significant anger and impulse control problems, while Han displayed separation anxiety traits and intense fear of being apart from her husband. 2 days later, the couple reenacted the crime at the apartment with police, calmly demonstrating how they had dismembered and concealed their son's body. Their composure during the reconstruction stunned observers. In February 2016, prosecutors formally indicted Choi for fatally assaulting his son in early November 2012, leading to his death. Han, though not directly involved in the fatal beating, was indicted for prior physical abuse and for neglecting the boy in his dying state. The verdict came in May 2016. The court sentenced Choi to 30 years in prison, followed by 30 years of electronic monitoring after release. Han was sentenced to 20 years in prison. Both were stripped of their parental rights. Their daughter was placed into protective state care. But the case did not end with sentencing. It sparked national debate. How could a child disappear for years without notice? The court acknowledged that if not for the absentee check program, the boy might have remained hidden in a freezer indefinitely. For many in South Korea, that realization was as chilling as the crime itself. In the end, the boy's absence from school became louder than the silence of his home. Forgotten in life and nearly forgotten in death, he was found only because the state finally counted what his parents had erased.